Okay, in this video I'm going to be going over how to get started with styled components. And styled components are really robust. You can pass functions to them, you can style based off of state, you can style based off of props, and styled components isn't the only library out there that allows you to do that. There's other ones as well. But in this code sandbox, and I'll share a link to this code sandbox in the description, this is just kind of the out-of-the-box thing that you get, and I've just changed the title here. But you can see they're just importing styles.css, and styles.css is a super simple CSS file. You could import a Sass file, but we want to use styled components so that we can get those benefits of using variables within our CSS. So I'm going to comment this out, or I'm just going to remove it. And you can see that our text now is like to the left and it looks a little bit different. So let's write this same CSS within a styled component. So right now it's styling off of this class app, which is a div. So cool. The first thing we need to do is npm install styled components, and it's styled-components. But since this is a code sandbox, I've just added a dependency, which is the same as just npm installing. And then the next thing we need to do is import styled from styled components. And when we create a styled component, we're just creating a variable. So I do const. And my naming convention for these is usually starting it off with styled, and I capitalize it. And I'm going to say styled div. Cool. And now we're going to use this styled, what we get from styled components. We could also import some other stuff that I'll do in another video sometime, some kind of advanced stuff. But we need to set this styled div equal to styled dot, and this is where we put the HTML element that we want to style, or I guess JSX. So we want to style a div. And now we do two backticks. And inside of these backticks, we can now write pretty much normal CSS, and we can pass state, we can pass props to it. But we just want to do something really simple for now, which is to replicate this CSS. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it in here. All right, now we've got to use the variable. So I'm just going to copy it. And I'm going to replace this div with our style div variable. And there we go. We're back to normal. And I could just say color blue. Cool. It's that simple, really, just to get up and running. We could create like a styled heading primary. We could say style.h1, two backticks. And we could say that, I don't know, we'll just move the color, or we'll just make this color green. We'll just style to the H1 itself. Awesome. There we go. And now if we wanted to use these some more, we could just have like an exports file that we create and import them to any components that need a div that looks like this, or a heading primary that looks like this. And we could also have just like a giant JSON file or something, or some other variables that we use in our styled components, to where we can make our code way more reusable. We can just have one source of truth, almost like stateful CSS. And that's really awesome. So let's now check out how we can pass state to our CSS. Okay, let's create a simple dark mode button toggle. And let's start that off by creating a styled button. So const styled button equals style.button. And let's give it a font size of like 1.2 rem, padding of 1 rem, and color black. Cool. And let's just have it live below our heading here. Style button. And we can say change mode. Cool. And we could say background color light blue. Okay, doesn't look super great, but that's fine. So we want every time we click this button to change it to a dark mode or light mode. So let's just use a hook here for use state. And first I need to import use state. And I'm going to call this is dark mode and then set dark mode. Use state false. So by default, it is not in dark mode. So let's create a on click. And we'll say that whenever we do click this button, we're going to set the dark mode to whatever the opposite is of is dark mode. So it's just going to make this true at first and then false and so on. Cool. So right now it's changing. And I think if we log this out, we'll see it. Cool. So right now it's false. Now it's true, false, true, false, true. Awesome. So it's doing what we need it to. But we need to add this variable to our CSS. And let's say that like if it's light mode, we'll keep it green. If it's dark mode, we'll do black. Just something super simple. So previously we had our variables for our styled components up here, above our function, above our app component. But if we were to try to use dark mode up here, like if I try to console log is dark mode up here, it's not going to work because is dark mode isn't defined. So if we try to use this variable or this piece of state within any of these styled components right now, it's not going to work just because of the rules of JavaScript. So we can take this declaration for this heading and just put it inside of our app. Cool. All right, it's still green. And if we were to console log as dark mode like we did before, it has access to it, right? This is now below our state. So to use a piece of state within here, all we have to do is just do a $, curly brace. And as soon as we do that, we're out of CSS land, sort of, I guess, and we're in JavaScript land because of these backticks. So just like using template strings, if you're familiar with that, that's what we're using here. So if I do green and backticks, it's going to be happy now and make it green. So I can now say, if it's dark mode, I want the text to be green. Otherwise, I want it to be black. All right, so it's black because this is false by default. And if I start clicking this, awesome. So we have a piece of stateful CSS. We have a stateful styled component. And all we did is just add a variable because after all, that's all we're using here. There's of course some more complex things that we can do with these and how we could pass around this state. But I first want to show you how we can do this with props as well. So let's check that out. Using props in styled components is really similar to using the state, just like we did with is dark mode green, otherwise black. So let's just create like another, like I'm going to create const styled heading secondary. This will be a styled h2. We'll say color, let's just make it black for now. Cool. And I'll say this is example of props styling. Now, let's say that I wanted to give this a prop. Like I just want some sort of modifier on this styled heading secondary. That like maybe as I pass around this styled h2, I just add a single word. Let's call it alert. And whenever we have alert on here, it doesn't change anything right now, but we want it to make it red. So to do that, we can go up here and we can say color, black, and similar to our state, we just have to pass it a props function. So it takes in the props, and we'll say props.alert. If that's true, we want it to be red. But otherwise, we want it to be black. Awesome. Now, you might see that this styled heading primary that's using state has to be below where we create our useState hook. However, when we're using this function to check our props, we don't have to do that. Okay, so let's continue to destructure using props, and let's pass down the isDarkMode state to a component inside of here. And again, this is just some nonsense. Like, this is, just a little dumb button and some random text, and that's exactly what this next component will be too. So nothing important going on here. So let's do function user info is what we'll call this component. It will take in a name prop, and it will take in an age prop, and it will take in a prop called dark mode, which will tell us whether or not dark mode is true or false. Cool. So inside of here, I'm just going to return a fragment because I'm just going to put 2 p tags here. And one will just show the name, and the other one will just be the age. And let's put that user info component inside of our app component. All right, it's there, but we won't see anything because it just purely renders based off of props. So let's give it a name prop. We'll say name is like Kevin. And we'll say age is equal to 28. And there we go. It's showing on the screen. There's our little user info component. So we still haven't used this dark mode prop here. So let's say dark mode is equal to, and we called it isDarkMode. So we're passing down this state called isDarkMode to this component. Now, the only place we're going to use this piece of state, or in this case for user info, a prop called dark mode, the only place we're going to use this is within our styled component. So since we're going to be toggling this back and forth, I'm going to put this styled component variable inside of the actual component, similar to what we did with our styled heading primary here. So I'm going to say styled paragraph style.p, and let's just do the color. So we'll say color is, by default, we'll say orange. And so let's replace our paragraph tags with this. All right, cool. So now it is orange. Awesome. Since this is a little bit faded out, this dark mode, we're not using it. We need to, it's declared but never read. So we need to now use dark mode, and we're not going to use it within the return statement. I guess we could just to see whether or not dark mode is on or off. So we could just do dark mode. And it's not going to show anything because we have to put it to string. It's true or false right now. So when we're dealing with a Boolean like that, we'll just put it to string so we can see that it's false. And when we click this, it's now true. All right, so it's successfully getting this prop based on our state that we passed down. Everything seems to be working pretty well here. Great, so let's style based off of this prop. All right, so once again, we're just going to do our $sign and our opening curly bracket, our closing curly bracket. When we do that, we're in JavaScript land, so it thinks that orange is a variable now. And when we put backticks around orange, it's now a string. So yeah, we're back to normal now. Now, just like up here when we passed in our alert prop, just by putting alert here, we are going to do props, an arrow function, and we're going to say if dark mode is true, we want it to be, I don't know, let's say purple. Why not? And we can get rid of our props because you see this props is faded just like it was declared but never read before. So we can just get rid of that and just say dark mode. So when we click this, it now toggles back and forth. So we still have this little thing saying dark mode is true. I'm going to get rid of that. And yeah, so we're doing two things here. We're styling this area based on state, and we technically are styling this area based on state, right? But we're just styling it based on a prop that we pass down. So style components, they're super useful. They're really easy to just get up and running with. If you just need some quick styling, all you really got to do is just npm install, import styled, and start writing what JSX elements you want to style using this style dot. In another video coming up soon, I'm going to go over how to do a few more complex things with styled components and just some general best practices. Yeah, but hopefully this gets you up and running with how they work, and maybe you can use them in your project now. All right, cool. So I'll be back sometime soon, and thanks for watching.